Hello, welcome to Hard Refresh, the official podcast from State of Social 2025. You might ask, what are we doing here? Well, we're polishing off the old standard issue State of Social crystal ball and taking a deep dive into the next 25 years of digital marketing. We're talking about the trends, the technologies, the cultural shifts, and maybe even the controversies that are going to shape this industry for the next 25 years and perhaps even society at large. My name is Andres Lopez Varela. You can call me ALV, everybody does. And today we are recording on the traditional lands of the Whadjuk Noongar people live at State of Social 2025. In this episode, we do a hard refresh on digital audio. Digital audio has moved very much from background noise to center stage with podcasts, smart speakers, TikTok sounds, and brand playlists shaping culture online. But where does it go from here? As platforms pivot to video-first strategies, will audio fight to hold attention, or will it become the secret sauce behind every volume on experience in your feed? We're going to explore how music, sound design, and voice could evolve in the next 25 years of digital marketing. And we're going to ask, are we on the cusp of a new sonic boom for brands, or will audio get drowned out in the noise of endless scrolling and streaming on social? And joining me in the studio to talk about what's next for digital audio is Adam Johnson, the co-founder of Original Audio and the Chief Growth Officer at Nova Entertainment. Adam, welcome. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. And Georgia Tappy, social media consultant and honestly, in my opinion, one of the internet's best Gen Z whisperers. How are you, Georgia?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be here.
It's good. I'm so glad to have you. And I'm so happy that you guys are, here to talk about this topic. Are you enjoying State of Social so far?
Yeah, love coming here for this.
Yeah.
It's just a brilliant event, and just the variety of speakers and stimulus is, it's one of the best out there. So it's good to be part of.
Yeah, great. And you're a repeat offender, Georgia, right?
I am.
Yeah.
I came here last year and I had to come back.
Yeah,
it
good.
was so much fun, and I'm having a great time again.
That's excellent.
It's really awkward when you come here and then you don't get asked back. So
That is.
Yeah,
I mean, that hasn't
always-
happened to me yet, but we'll see.
There's still time, right? All right, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
let's do it.
Time to do a hard refresh. All right, let's start with something fun. Keep it light and breezy. If the internet in 2025 had a soundtrack, what would be on it? Like what TikTok sounds, what podcasts, what music would we be just, playing over and over, Georgia?
One of my favorite YouTube creators, Todd in the Shadows, has been doing this for about 15 years, and he does a recap at the end of every year and he mashes up all the trending songs, and I cannot wait to hear what it's going to be like this year, because I think, broadly speaking, we haven't really had, in American terms, the song of a summer. We haven't had a big cultural song that's taken over. So I feel like it has been every couple of days just a new song is trending and then it dies, which I'm very curious about if you look back on your Spotify playlists, what it's going to look like. So I honestly can't answer that question.
And what do you think, Adam, that tells us about the way that people are connecting with brands online?
I think, as Georgia says, there's so much variety of particularly music out there that kind of has its moment and then peters away. It probably is a deeper reflection on attention, a little bit. Brands have their moment in the sun in the way that kind of pop culture icons do. I think more than anything, it underscores the benefits of consistency. And I think one of the soundtracks to social, the past few months, I'm sure it's come up on this podcast so far, is Jet2 Holidays.
Yeah.
And that's not by design, that was by accident. But what was by design was the fact that the consistent use of voice and music allowed that to become a meme, because particularly in the UK, it's just so ingrained in people's memory as the way that brand goes to market in a very standard and honest way, which is, this is why you should book your holiday through this company. Here's a nice song and here's a voice that's familiar to you. That familiarity and that consistency allowed that to effectively to become a meme. And I think every brand can, you might not end up as a TikTok or internet sensation, but it certainly means that that brand has built deep neural pathways in people's brains that allows it to take on this whole new life.
Yeah. It's fair enough. And it's good. I'm glad you mentioned that. We have had a few mentions of that.
Yeah.
It's definitely...
I'm sure
that's the cover image of the playlist of the soundtrack of this year, I think.
Yeah, it feels like anything I would add as what Jordan said. I guess, and I say this as a British bloke in his mid-40s, feels like that Britpop summer in the UK has definitely been a thing, and with Oasis coming to Australia in November, I'm going to see a wave of of indie music coming back. I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, that's good. Let's look forward to that. Hopefully it's not all TikTok sounds then for us. But you made a good point about the neural pathways that this stuff can create, you know, from Netflix's ta-dum to that sort of like Intel da-da-da-da. Like we've all heard how, and we know how sound can stick in the memory, how it activates memory. Do you think this form of this sonic branding is underutilized, or are we like actually on the leading edge of a real, you know, iconic sound for more brands than ever before?
I still think it's the domain of the few rather than of the many.
Yeah.
At the moment, and one of the reasons for doing original audio is to try and help brands do more of that. Our only plea is that marketers obsess about how they sound as much as how they look. When you think about the 75-page brand guidelines document that stipulates what the Pantone reference is of your third accent color
and the logo exclusion zone.
Totally, and a small space version and a reverse version, all those kind of things that we obsess over. Why marketers don't obsess over the consistency of how they sound, I think, is just a genuinely a missed opportunity.
Why do you think that is? Is it a lack of like training, for want of a better term?
Yeah, I think it's a lack of awareness in terms of the benefits of it, and it's one of the reasons why we love doing the talks that we've done this morning at State of Social, is to talk to an audience and show them the data behind why this stuff works. And then we're just busy people, right? And it's like, yeah, the logo's good, and off we go kind of thing. It's also less. This sounds like a wildly odd thing to say. It's also less visible, as in, it's not something you can put on a wall in your office.
Yes.
Whereas actually creating consistent user experience, when you think about an in-store experience for a physical retailer, everything has a sound, and that sound should reflect on the brand. And I think one of the things that I think there was a danger probably 3 years ago that social became a mute medium. Instagram launched effectively as a photo sharing app, and it's only since the advent of TikTok, which has forced Meta into Reels, which has meant that actually it's now very much a sound-on experience. And some of the research that we showed this morning is that having a sonic cue in the first 2 seconds of a TikTok video, which is research done by System 1, has like 191% positive impact on brand recall by having a sonic cue in the first 2 seconds. So don't think of it. I think we all think of it as the Intel Inside, because that was the kind of the progeny of the whole thing. But actually, brands don't have to spend $100,000 on a massive sonic branding project. They can just make sure that every one of their TikTok videos has the same sting at the start, and you're on your way.
Yes. I think that's fair. It's good insight. And I think, of course, you've mentioned it, like that. The way that social media has gone all in on sound on, I guess, for the most part. Especially if you're sitting on a train with a bunch of elderly people, it seems we've all got sound on, right?
It's my biggest pet peeve, to be honest. I will tell people off on trains if they're playing things out loud. I'm like, headphones exist. They've existed for 20 plus years. Like,
yeah, but they ruin our ears, though, Georgia.
Oh,
right?
true. I didn't think of that.
That's right.
It's the collective good, though. If you're on a busy, packed 8 a.m. train to work, I don't want to hear your TikTok.
No,
sorry.
that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, they've turned these sounds and trending audio, Jet2 Holidays, a perfect example, into hits overnight, and then their creators into sometimes marketing must-haves, by the end of that week. What do you think this is about, George? Like, is this a trend or a fad, or is sound perhaps like the last true differentiator for brands on social media?
Such a good question. I mean, obviously sound has been part of the human storytelling since forever. Like, that's how we've always communicated stories, oral storytelling, I should say. And I think you're right. I think it's an underutilized piece of lore building. I think an example that springs to mind is Superman came out earlier this year, and the creator of the movie created Spotify playlists where if you typed in Superman into Spotify, it would ready make playlists based on the character that you most identified with. It was very interesting to me, and I was like, I've seen no one else do this. And it's a way of continuing to tell the story long past being in the movie theater, long past remembering that conversation you had with a friend. So yeah, I feel like great brands that do it well, wonderful, but I am always cautious about telling brands to do something if they're not quite ready for it. I agree with you, don't need $100,000 to do it well, but I hate when people jump on things and they haven't thought about it properly. Like, how will we make this actionable for everyone? How will we make it easy for everyone in the brand to do it well? Like having a brand logo guideline, is there a way of, sonically showing people what we're about?
And do you think that, like, in relation to that kind of readiness for brands, is there a sense perhaps that this is still I mean, you mentioned it earlier, it's kind of a secondary consideration, it's not as visual. But surely we're all on social media chronically. Surely we know better. Like, surely our own personal experience, Adam, can inform that knowledge gap, right?
Yeah, you'd think so.
You'd hope so.
Maybe it's, when I think about content creators, they're predominantly thinking about how they or their content looks. And I think from a production point of view, to your point, Georgia, about how do you make it easy, every content creation team in a business or in an agency, they need to be given. They need to have the folder on their desktop or whatever with all those little WAV files, earcons, sound design techniques, all the things that make up how your brand sounds, readily available to drag and drop into the content creation project. And that doesn't come readily to mind in the same way that they're clipping videos. So there is definitely an education piece to do, and we're kind of kicking around Original Audio, like a low cost branding product purely for social media creators. So from a usage point of view, you can only use it on social, so you couldn't use it on TV or radio because that's when your costs blow out. But here's a 3-second Sonic logo, a 1-second version, and 6 different sound objects that you can use that make sure that every video that you do has a level of consistency, and people immediately know that this is from brand X.
Is this a generational thing, Georgia? Do you think that, perhaps younger generations, as they kind of become baby marketers, are they more likely to understand this?
I do think from my research on young people that they are more likely to listen to videos with sound off. And I do think there's an accessibility point there for other marketers to make sure you have captions, obviously. Yeah. But I think it's like, this sounds to me like a really great space and definitely the next level. And I would like it to be more part of a marketing mix. But I've worked for a lot of agencies, a lot of brands, and there is a lot to juggle. And sometimes I think unless it is something that is cried out for your specific target audience, like that they listen with sound on, that's important to them, then I do think it moves around a lot. And I can see why some content creators prioritize the visual look of it, because we know no matter what, if you're on social media, you are looking at something. Sure. That is the medium. As you said, Instagram started as a photo sharing app. So I don't know. I don't know if I can speak for an entire generation, but definitely.
What do you mean? That's what you.
Oh, true. Give me 3 hours and do it in 1 hour. No, I mean, like as you've spoken about, it's a huge way of getting in someone's brain, like the earworm effect. And I personally am sick of hearing the Jet2 Holiday thing, but I'm over it. But I am a marketer and I hear it constantly. I think if you were that brand, you'd be ecstatic with that. You'd be so happy that people are still milling that around and they're twisting it themselves. That's like the key to a great campaign. When people start to share it, they're in their own way.
And make their own.
Even if they're making fun. I think more brands need to lean into that. Like it's sometimes a bit hard being like, I don't want to be made fun of. Well, sorry, people are doing it anyway. You might as well like lean into the joke and enjoy that moment, because it probably won't last forever. This time next year, next day to social, I bet you'll all be like, what was that Jet2 Holiday thing?
We're not talking about Bunnings, because that was last year. Like the Bunnings rave thing.
That was huge last year.
Yeah, right. And the brand lent into it, and they put on the rave, kind of thing. And then it's a firework, right? It flies and then it fizzles out. So, but I think you're right. As a brand, if it's not damaging, just absolutely lean into it, because it's reward. It's reward for the investment that you've made and the consistency that you put into how you show up.
It's relevance. It's demonstrating relevance.
And I do think that speaks to your point about quality versus quantity. I'd rather spend a lot of time crafting something really important that lines up with the storytelling I'm trying to do versus trying to pump out a bunch of different audio cues that just don't really work.
I want to start looking towards the future and start talking with obviously talking about this 800-pound gorilla that is podcasting, right? Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's all over my social, like most of my social feed is like podcast, like snippets of hopefully like what this show is going to be like, where we do a snippet and we put it in people's feeds. And, like, I guess thinking about the landscape over the next 5 years, is there much of a runway left for podcasts to grow in terms of their format and the style and the approach? Or are we kind of reaching the edges, Adam, of what the medium can do?
It comes down to, and we're definitely not going to solve it on this show because I've spent hours with various colleagues in the audio industry trying to get to the bottom of it. What is a podcast? Even like, existentially, how do you define what a podcast is? And I would say, no, we haven't reached the edges, because every time we do, we then push those edges out into something else. And I probably would have said 18 months ago, we'd reached the limit of, from a format point of view, what you can do with an audio first podcast, and from an audience, literally amount of hours that people have, waking hours they have in the day. We got to the one in, one out situation, which is if I've got a new podcast I want to listen to, I've got to stop listening to something else.
I've done that too.
So thanks for the recommendation, but I can't fit it in unless I just sleep less. But then videos come along, and it's it's effectively given podcast a whole new dimension and definition almost. It's clearly created a business model for Spotify and for YouTube, and therefore I think the name podcast came from Apple based on a piece of audio that was downloaded to your iPod.
Remember iPods?
It stopped being that 10 years ago. So it's a word that's almost lost meaning, but because of that has gained a level of kind of malleability to it. That is great. And I think a lot of creators now just talk about, even as I did just then accidentally, just talk about it's a show. And it's a show that is delivered on various platforms. The trick is being disciplined to go, this is a visual first podcast or this is an audio first podcast, because trying to do both is really hard. And from a Nova point of view, as a creator of podcasts and a partner with lots of creators to help them monetize their podcasts, we give them a lot of guidance on what are you trying to do first and foremost, what are you best at, and ultimately what does your audience want. And just because there's a camera in front of you doesn't mean that you're a TV star.
The camera's incidental almost.
Exactly, but I do worry, and it's a more of a human condition thing, which is, there's a camera pointing out to me, therefore I'm going to talk about
very stiff, and suddenly like, hello there, instead of being your real self,
which is the beauty of podcasts. Podcasts came from people having conversations, and the minute the camera's in the room, it changes that dynamic. It also means that they start to change the language. Like I was listening to one this week, and people talk about viewers, not listeners.
You're right.
And as an audio guy, that kind of like, I'm screaming at in the car, old man shouts at clouds type situation. We're going through a massive transitional phase of the medium, and like I say, I think it's more healthy, I think, as an industry to think about them as shows of anything from 20 minutes to an hour long that appear regularly in a feed, be that on your YouTube homepage or on your Apple podcast app. That somewhere along the line, unless it's ABC or BBC, somewhere along the line, someone's got to make money from it. So, and is that through product placement? Is that through baked in reads, or is that through dynamic ad insertion? And the great thing is that creators have got loads of different levers to pull to get rewarded for the time and the energy that they put into creating these things.
Yes, more and more so, obviously, and so, like, looking forward to the next 5 years, thinking about the format, I'm so glad that you made that important distinction between video and audio first, right? So, because obviously we're filming this, but it's definitely audio first. We're not doing anything special or spectacular in the background or anything like that, There's no cooking demonstrations.
Cool.
It's between two fans.
It is, yes. Thank you. It's giving Zach Galifianakis, right?
Between two fans, yes.
But what do you think as we move forward, as we take this format forward to probably become one of the preeminent formats, of the internet, in the next 5 to 10 years, eclipsing many others? Do you think, Georgia, that the intersection of podcasts and social media becomes, more cluttered? Is this the way that people discover podcasts, almost exclusively?
I do think it is a huge proponent in, if you are starting a podcast, you do need to find a way of clipping your media. It's frustrating, I'm sure, for a podcast host to be like, you want to listen to the whole 20-minute thing, but, it's almost like a trailer for a movie. You want that soundbite that's maybe a little bit juicy and makes people want to listen more. Some of my favorite podcasts, like the one I love most at the moment, is Stabby's World, and he answers listeners' calls, and he has a very offbeat, to your point, very casual attitude. It is not stiff at all, and he's great on socials because he is just answering as if a mate's called him up and said, I got too drunk on the weekend, what should I do? And I love that. I think retaining that human element, and I think the problem really is like, how do you be human and weird and flawed and still have brand deals and not be off-putting to brands? And I think I would encourage brands to not be so vindictive when they're vetting podcasts and letting people be humans. They may slip up, they may swear, they may bring up parts of their past that aren't quite, I don't know, corporatized, but still finding a way, because your audience is obviously listening to them and connecting to them. So maybe loosening some of the brand guidelines when you're thinking about sponsoring a podcast. That's just my opinion.
That's fair enough. I also want to talk about, you mentioned about podcast advertising, the way that it can be monetized. You both mentioned it. I feel like I skip through them as often as I can now. Like, you know, the 15-second sort of like, when I hear that sound that it's going to the ad break, I just go tap, 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 tap. I mean, they feel like the audio equivalent of the YouTube, like, you know, bumper ad, I guess. Do you see this as a viable advertising channel in the 2030s? Can it become a mass channel moving forward, especially for creators that are perhaps smaller and looking to be rewarded for their effort, and they've only got one or maybe two shows?
Yeah, it comes down to effectiveness, really. So it's a challenge for the industry around, we don't have control over the end distribution platform. In that, as podcast creators or monetizers, we don't control the UX of Spotify or Apple or whatever app you're listening to. But there's lots of work happening in and around the industry to ensure that you know, ads get listened to more than not. I genuinely believe that, and we see this through effectiveness studies, is that they must be listening, because when you run a podcast campaign, whatever metric you're measuring, be that recall or things like you know, the good old coupon code, for example, it's working. So people are listening. So there's a subset of people that will skip, and we want to move towards a world where we know exactly how many do, and therefore kind of address that. The other thing is that it's almost priced in as well. Like, the podcast advertising is so cost effective that it's almost it is priced into it.
You're accounting for that way.
Without having the exact ratios, it's definitely, it's under monetized in terms of the audience, and the people trust that environment so much. They're so engaged that I think it's still unbelievable value to advertisers. I think what we are seeing, particularly in a world where lots of creators are signing up to Spotify's video deal, which is where all of your advertising is served by Spotify, because you're publishing as a video first podcast, basically. We're almost kind of what was old is new again. We're going to go back to the baked in read kind of thing, which is that sits within the content. Because that bit can't be stripped out by the platforms. And again, measuring that is difficult because you haven't got, it's not delivered off via an ad server and all those kinds of things. But actually, you know, the good old, you know, can of drink on the desk and then the person talking about it, the ads, the end distribution point is they probably will, they'll find a way at some point because they're clever people. But at the moment that stays in the content. So it's definitely more fragmented now with Spotify's video product, with YouTube, and then with what we call DAI, dynamic ad insertion. It's relatively fragmented, but the big shows like the Diary of a CEO, one of the ones that we represent, even across those three ways that you can show up in that product, the audiences are just ginormous still. So you can choose one or you can choose all of them.
And I think it's I think there seems to be a trend across all these conversations that we're having on all these topics, looking forward to the next 25 years or whatever, where there seems to be a sense in our industry that we're sort of going back to some old school ways of doing things. And I think that's really interesting and compelling. I wonder though, will Gen Alpha, Gen Z recognize those tropes?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is like part of growing up on the internet is like what you said before. That's very common for young people to skip through the ads. And I know it's frustrating for marketers, but it's like when we used to watch TV and you would walk off during the ad break. You'd go grab, boil the kettle. This is a big thing in England, right? There'd be the tea break.
Put the
at 5
kettle
p.m.
on. Absolutely.
No, I meant like the energy crisis that would happen at 5 p.m.
Yes,
in the news.
as in the spike. Because everyone goes and puts the kettle on.
So it's human nature to be like, I'm being sold an ad and I don't really feel like watching this ad. I'm going to walk off. And the goal, I think, for advertisers is to tell a story that's just as compelling as the content, ideally. Like, that's easier said than done, obviously. But if you're trying to disrupt someone's favorite program, and these podcasts are like hanging out with friends for some people. It's like your daily way to unwind. It's how you get home from work. Yeah, make that ad part of the narrative and make it fun and exciting and make it, like, I'm sure you're very good at this already. So it's just listen to the experts. They know what they're talking about, but young people will skip the ads if you're not careful, especially if they're even a little bit boring.
So going back to that old, like, you know, the can of drink on the desk and everything is actually probably more effective because they can't skip that, right?
It's like movie product placement. I find it very jarring, and I do think as marketers we're much more attuned to it than probably regular people are.
Yes, I think that's
But
true.
even then, I'm like, sometimes I will be watching someone eat a Big Mac in a movie, and I'm like, maybe I do want McDonald's actually. So yeah, it's effective.
Like Adam says, it works, right?
It does work, and humans are not as smart as we think we are, and we are very susceptible. And like, this is the point. Audio stuff can be very manipulative. Like music is very nostalgic for us, and there's a lot of memories associated with it. So I would caution brands to be careful with that, but also, have fun with it, basically.
It's quite powerful, yeah.
The other thing you could think about is having non-skippable ads with a live podcast with some songs in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
It's called the radio.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Jingles.
Look at that.
Yeah. That could be a thing.
Good, mate. That's good. Well played.
Yeah.
I want us to look a little bit further now. I want us to like gaze into the crystal ball. Let me set the scene. Let's pretend the year is like 2040. Gen Z is as old as elder millennials are now. They've got smart speakers. They've got AR glasses. Maybe they've got neural interfaces in their home. I mean, what role, Georgia, do you imagine audio playing for those audiences, like in their house? Are we talking, sort of a background, sort of ambience? Are we talking more immersive worlds? Or maybe something creepier, like a brand's literally whispering in your ear in the bathroom going, time to brush your teeth.
Yeah, I actually think it's going to be like that. And I don't like forecasting in such a negative way, but I do imagine with the way Google is pricing some of these products, these like immersive products, I think it will be in a lot of people's homes. And I think as Gen Z grows up, maybe they'll get married, maybe they'll have kids, maybe they'll buy a house. They'll go through the same patterns of adulthood that we all have where, life is stressful, life is hard, you just want to relax, you want to give away some of the things that are hard in life, like remembering to brush your teeth for some of us. You might give that up to a machine without maybe thinking about the consequences. And I definitely see this a bit already, like people coming home and being like, hey, Siri, play this playlist. And I wonder, again, with the under 16 ban that's coming in, how much privacy, how much data we're giving. I don't know. I'm always very nervous about that. But in 2040, I do think it'll be a huge part of people's homes. I think some people might even have like a gaming room, which is literally just a place you can step into and you can explore whatever world you want. And it's very immersive with music.
Just in one space. Yeah, that's fair. And Adam, what do you think? Like, what is the potential for digital audio in those sort of more ambient environments?
I think that voice will continue to, voice as a way to interface will continue to grow. Like I think that we'll look back on Siri and Alexa and the like as kind of the very early days of getting rid of the need to use your thumbs to interact with the internet. Because it is a weird, when you think about it, like, the way that I'm extracting information is like literally pressing keys kind of thing. It's, we'll look back and go, well, we'll look back at that as like we think about fax machines now, I imagine.
Or even like early man with his tools and carving stuff out. It's like, we've always used our hands a certain way, but now it's going to be about just the voice.
100%.
Yeah. That is
and I've got friends with, my kids are younger, but I've got friends with teenage kids and they will walk around with one AirPod in their ear
constantly,
all the time.
Yeah.
And that's, and you never know whether when you talk to them, whether they're listening to you or not.
They choose not to listen as well,
exactly.
even if they're not listening to anything.
So
they're like, I've got my headphones in, actually.
So it's almost, it's a step towards kind of, bionics ultimately, which is having a because obviously an AirPod is both a microphone and a speaker, so you have both directions in terms of audio. You can command and you can listen, and I think that will only, as younger people get used to, I've always got something in my ears, whether I'm chatting to my mates, I'm gaming, or I'm asking ChatGPT to do my homework for me. There is a level of comfort with that that will, as this generation then grows into being homeowners and those kinds of things, will be it'll be built into our lives. I think that the fork in the road is going to be, does that mean that we all have our own unique soundscape in our lives, which is, so mine, I'm sitting next to you, but I might be listening to something completely different to you are from an ambient point of view. And does that take away this notion of shared experience? I remain optimistic in the human condition that we, as people, still love
to share a communal experience.
Exactly that. And it's the reason why, again, predictable thing for me to say, but radio listening remains, kind of rock solid, because there's only one thing that ultimately, if you're in the car with, seven different ages in the car, that one thing which will serve all of them from a community point of view is something like that, which is programmed for that reason. So look, I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating. But voice will be everything, and I think we'll probably have a little AI pucks or something that we carry around with us that sits on the desk, and you talk to it,
listening all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's going to be great.
I love that. Before we wrap it up, we have just enough time for the refresh round. So these questions are for you to just get spicy and no holds barred, okay? In 2050, will brands as we know them still exist, or will we have hit refresh on the whole idea?
I feel like we are moving to a place, at least with social media, I can only speak for what I'm an expert in, where brands have kind of crowded out young people in the platforms that they loved. Like I think about Be Real, got destroyed by brands. TikTok is heading that way. It does feel like the life cycle of a new platform is people discover it, people love it, people share it with their friends, then their family. Brands discover it's cool, they take over, it stops being cool, people leave, brands follow them. So my fear is that one day we will just be like, brands fuck off completely. But I don't know, it's so easy to say that. What does brand mean from an existential point of view?
What's one marketing buzzword, Adam, that you would refresh straight into the garbage?
I know my answer.
Oh, you can go then.
Authenticity. It's like, what does that mean? What are you trying to say? What's the actionable advice you're trying to give your client? Be more authentic. Well, the whole point of socials is there's a camera in my face right now. I'm not behaving the way I would. So I just think that's BS basically.
I feel like the metaverse seems to have come and gone. That's an interesting one. And it's kind of like what is AI doing that the metaverse didn't do, and how different are they? Because it went boom and bust quite quickly. So that's probably in the bin already. I'll have to think
probably
about
for
that
the best though.
I agree. I definitely agree with the authentic thing. Like particularly working in podcasting myself, like you go to podcast conferences and everyone says just be authentic. Like
yourself, just be vulnerable. Well,
no
how? And what are the consequences of being truly authentic as well? I don't know. I just like. It's a very glib answer. But
no, it's fair. It's fair. All right, if AI got a chance to refresh your job description, what would it throw out? What would it look at and go, oh, you don't need to do this anymore?
I think AI is wonderful when it frees you up to do higher value tasks. And I still do a lot of low value tasks. And I'm lucky I have a big team and, all kind of support systems around working in a big company like I do at Nova. But you still find yourself
busy work.
Busy work. Things like expenses and diary management and those kinds of things. That is. I'm sure there are people that are way further down the curve than I am that have gone. Yeah, mate. I was I was doing that 2 years ago. I need to kind of get on the train with that kind of stuff. But then it's having the discipline to fill that time with high value, genuine kind of value creation exercises rather than just doing more shit. You're doing more shit. There's a level of discipline there in terms of time allocation for sure.
Yeah, fair enough.
That is such a good question. I think I believe that the low value stuff leads to more powerful high value stuff. I think it is frustrating. A big part of my job is community management and reading horrible comments all day. But from that, I get a lot of insight into my audience and know what they care about, what they don't care about. So whenever I've thought about like offsetting reporting to AI or offsetting community manager to AI, I go, well, then I'd just be creating content in a vacuum, and I don't think it would be as effective. So maybe I'm an anti-Luddite, maybe I'm below the curve, but I just think at the moment AI can't do much and do it well and not make mistakes that I would rather just do myself. It's the reason I do this job. So,
fair enough. And when Gen Alpha refreshes marketing in 20 years' time, they look back at us, what are they going to roast us for the most?
I think that they will look back, and particularly probably in the last 10 years, and challenge how obsessed we got with performance. I feel like when George, you were talking about brands and existentially what are brands, I do believe the brands are they provide shortcuts for us, as in it's a promise, and if the brand keeps that promise, I know I'm going to get what I want from that. And I genuinely believe that there'll forever be value in that, and the fact that I think in the past 10, maybe 15 years, that as particularly through Google's dominance of search, that we just got obsessed by cost per insert brand metric here.
Last click attribution.
Totally, and I think the brands that either have fallen by the wayside or will do are the ones that have insulated themselves against the unbelievable change that is coming at us, because their brand doesn't stand for anything, because they put all of their investment and thinking and enterprise value into last click and those kinds of things, and didn't think about why do people spend time, be that mental or physical, with us in the first place, and whether our product is delivered. I mean, look at Netflix, whether our product is delivered in the post or via the cloud. I still trust this brand to do what it's promised to do. And that means that you can but you can definitely insulate yourself against disruption, and gives you the permission to do new things as long as you stay true to that promise that you're making.
I like that. I hope that's what Gen Alpha does. That would be great.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. This has been fun. I've really enjoyed this. I think there's a lot of potential forks in the road for digital audio in the next couple of decades. Adam Johnson, Georgia Tappy, thank you so much for joining me for this chat. I hope you enjoy the rest of State of Social.
Thanks,
Andres.
Andres.
Thank you for having us.
If you like this refreshing conversation, you're going to love the rest of Hard Refresh. Join me and the smart minds of the State of Social 2025 crew as we dive into all the big topics to understand what's coming next in digital marketing. All episodes are now live wherever you get your podcasts. And remember what your mum said, sharing is caring. So tell a mate if you like what you hear, and give us a rating so other people can discover the show too. Hard Refresh is a co-production of State of Social and Original Audio. It's produced by me, Andres Lopez Varela, and Aaron Matthews from Original Audio. Big thank you to Cal McLean for production support, and to our executive producer, Meg Coffey. I'm ALV. Thanks for tuning in, and join me again next time when we hit refresh all over again.